The underestimated species, the discovery, the massive Calith exploration vessel. Dominion's Edge drifted silently through the outer reaches of a yellow star system. Its crystalline hull reflected the distant light as sensors swept across the third planet from the star. Ambassador Zex-9 stood before the main viewing portal, his tall, ethereal form casting long shadows across the command deck. His pale blue skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep concentration. "Ambassador," called out Navigator Prime Yish, "the scans are complete. The planet shows clear signs of intelligent life." The navigator's voice carried a note of excitement that was rare among the typically stoic. Kaleth.ZEX-9 turned his elongated head toward the data displays. The planet was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green continents. But what interested him most were the energy signatures scattered across its surface. Cities, the navigator had called them. Primitive, but organized. What level of development? Zex-9 asked, his voice carrying the musical quality common to his species. "Early atomic age, Ambassador. They have split the atom, but have not yet mastered fusion. Their fastest vehicles use chemical propulsion. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light capability." Zex-9 made a soft trilling sound that indicated satisfaction. Another primitive species to add to the Empire's collection. The Calith had perfected the art of finding developing civilizations and bringing them under their protection. It was a noble calling, saving species from destroying themselves with their own primitive weapons. First, Contact Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of the International Space Station New Horizon, watching the impossible object on her screens. The craft had appeared without warning, massive and elegant, clearly not of human design. Her dark eyes remained calm despite the historic moment unfolding before her. "Commander," said Lieutenant James Park, his voice tight with excitement, "we're receiving a transmission. The computer is translating it now." Elena nodded, her military training keeping her composed. She had been chosen to lead Earth's first contact protocols for good reason. 20 years of military service had taught her to stay calm under pressure. The voice that came through the speakers was melodic, almost like singing. "Greetings, inhabitants of the Third World. I am Ambassador Zex-9 of the Calith Empire. We come in peace to offer you the gift of civilization." Elena activated her microphone. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your people." "Excellent," came the response. "We have studied your species and are impressed by your potential. The Calith Empire has protected over 40 different species across the galaxy. We offer you the same protection." Dr. Marcus Chun, Earth's leading xenobiologist, leaned close to Elena. "Protection from what?" He whispered. Elena asked the question aloud. "From yourselves," Zex-9 replied. "Young species like yours always destroy themselves with war and environmental damage. We prevent this by providing guidance and structure. Your people would be relocated to appropriate worlds where they can contribute to the greater good of the galaxy." The command center fell silent. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "You want to relocate humanity?" "Yes, your world is rich in resources that the Empire needs. Your people would be much happier on worlds designed for their biology. We have done this many times before. It is always successful." The assessment aboard the Dominion's Edge, scientist Castvelm studied the biological data their probes had collected. The humans were fascinating in their simplicity. They were clearly evolved from persistence hunters, with forward-facing eyes and efficient cardiovascular systems. But they seemed weak compared to most species the Empire had encountered. "They have no natural weapons," Velm reported to Ambassador Zex-9. "No claws, no fangs, no poison. Their skin is thin and easily damaged. They appear to be social creatures, but their social structures are chaotic and often violent. Zex-9 reviewed the data with interest. What about their technology? Primitive but functional. They have developed nuclear weapons, but these are crude devices. Their military equipment is based on kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. They would be no match for our energy weapons and defensive systems. And their psychology? Thalm paused, reviewing the cultural data their probes had gathered. Diverse to the point of chaos. They have hundreds of different languages, belief systems, and political structures. They spend significant resources fighting among themselves. However, they do show remarkable creativity and problem-solving abilities. Zex-9 made a dismissive gesture. Creativity without discipline is merely chaos. They will adapt to Empire structure once they understand the benefits. The ultimatum 3 days after first contact, Ambassador Zex-9 delivered the Empire's final offer to the assembled leaders of Earth. The transmission was broadcast to every nation simultaneously. Leaders of humanity, Zex-9 began, his melodic voice carrying across the globe. The Calith Empire extends its final invitation. You have 7 of your solar rotations to prepare for peaceful integration. Our ships will arrive to begin the relocation process. Resistance is not recommended, as it would only result in unnecessary casualties. President Sarah Morrison of the United States was the first to respond. Ambassador Zex-9, we appreciate your offer, but humanity declines. We prefer to remain on our homeworld and govern ourselves. The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. When Zex-9 spoke again, his voice carried a note of surprise. You decline? Do you not understand the benefits we offer? Peace, prosperity, guidance from a civilization that has existed for millennia? We understand, replied President Morrison. But we also understand that what you're offering is not freedom. It's slavery with better living conditions. Dr. Chun, who was monitoring the transmission, noticed something interesting in the aliens' biosignatures. Stress patterns that suggested the Caliph were not used to being refused. The mistake in the war room aboard the Dominion's Edge, War Prime Cortex studied the human refusal with growing irritation. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds, and never had such a primitive civilization dared to refuse their generous offer. They are more foolish than we thought, Cortex said to his assembled officers. Very well. We will demonstrate the futility of resistance. A single display of our power should be sufficient to change their minds. War Prime, interjected scientist Cast Velm. Perhaps we should study them more thoroughly. Their rejection was ... unexpected. Cortex bioluminescent patterns flared with annoyance. There is nothing to study. They are primitives with chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Our shields can deflect their most powerful weapons. Our energy beams can destroy their cities from orbit. What could they possibly do to threaten us? Preparation on Earth, the rejection of the alien ultimatum, had sparked the greatest mobilization in human history. Every nation contributed resources, technology, and personnel to the defense effort. Commander Elena Vasquez found herself promoted to Supreme Allied Commander, overseeing the combined military forces of every major power. Dr. Chun worked around the clock, analyzing the alien technology they had been able to observe. His team had made several crucial discoveries. Their ships are powered by some form of exotic matter, he explained to the military leadership. But they seem to rely heavily on energy-based weapons and defenses. What does that mean for us? Asked General Patricia Hayes, the American Joint Chiefs representative. It means they're prepared to fight other advanced civilizations, Dr. Chun replied. But they might not be prepared for the kind of warfare we specialize in. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan O'Brien was training Special Forces units in space combat. His teams had been equipped with modified equipment designed to function in the vacuum of space. They were preparing for something the aliens would never expect: boarding actions. Remember, Ryan told his teams, they think we're primitives. They won't expect us to fight like civilized beings. That's our advantage. The first strike asterisk. 7 days after the ultimatum, the Calith fleet arrived in force. 50 ships of various sizes, led by the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. To the humans watching from Earth, it was a terrifying sight. The ships were beautiful in their alien design, but their weapons were clearly visible. War Prime Corthix stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident in his overwhelming superiority. The human orbital stations were pathetic compared to his vessels. Their largest military ships were like insects compared to his dreadnought. "Begin the demonstration," Corthix ordered. "Target their orbital military installations. Minimal power. We want to disable, not destroy." Energy beams lanced out from the Calith ships, striking human satellites and space stations. The damage was precise and devastating. Within minutes, Earth's orbital defenses were crippled. "Now," Corthix said with satisfaction, "they will understand their situation." But the expected surrender transmission never came. Instead, the Calith sensors detected something impossible. Human ships were emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system. Ships that had been concealed behind asteroids, moons, and even within the debris of their own destroyed stations. "War Prime," called out his tactical officer, "we're detecting multiple human vessels approaching our position. They appear to be attacking." Corthix's bioluminescent patterns flickered with confusion. "Impossible. Our demonstration should have convinced them to surrender." The first human missiles struck the Calith shields and were deflected as expected. But then something unexpected happened. The humans didn't stop. Wave after wave of missiles and projectiles hammered the alien defenses. The Calith shields held, but the constant bombardment was consuming enormous amounts of energy. "They're using quantity over quality," observed the tactical officer. "But War Prime, this is wasteful. They're expending their entire arsenal for no strategic gain." That's when the real human attack began. Small, fast ships broke through the Calith perimeter, moving in patterns that defied conventional military doctrine. They darted between the larger alien vessels, firing constantly with weapons that seemed primitive, but were surprisingly effective. Ryan O'Brien led his assault team's boarding shuttle directly at the nearest Calith destroyer, the alien. Ship's point defense systems tried to intercept the small human craft, but there were too many targets moving too erratically. "This is Bravo Team," Ryan reported as his shuttle made contact with the alien hull. "We're going in." The cutting charges his team had developed burned through the Calith hull like paper. The aliens had designed their ships to resist energy weapons, but simple chemical explosives created holes that their technology couldn't quickly repair. Ryan's team poured into the alien ship, finding corridors filled with tall, graceful beings who seemed shocked by the human intrusion. The Calith crew wore elegant robes and carried energy weapons that hummed with contained power. But when the first alien fired at Ryan, the human's body armor absorbed the energy blast. The return fire from Ryan's kinetic rifle punched through the alien's protection like it was made of silk. "Their armor is wrong," Ryan reported over his radio. "It's designed for energy weapons, not bullets." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human boarding teams stormed alien ships. Human fighters used ramming attacks to disable larger vessels. And human weapons found gaps in defenses that had been designed to fight a completely different kind of war. War Prime, Corthix watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. These humans fought with a savagery and unpredictability that his military training had never prepared him for. "War Prime," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving damage reports from all vessels. The humans are They're inside our ships. Corthic's patterns flared with panic. Inside? How is that possible? The answer came from scientist Castvelm, who had been monitoring the battle from the science station. War Prime, we made a critical error. These humans don't fight like civilized beings. They use chaos as a weapon. They sacrifice their own units to achieve tactical objectives. They attack in ways that make no strategic sense. Then we destroy them all, Corthic snarled. No more demonstrations. Full power on all weapons. Turn their planet into glass. But when he gave the order, nothing happened. The Eternal Dominion's main weapons were offline. A human boarding team had somehow penetrated the ship's most secure sections and sabotaged the primary systems. Captain Ryan O'Brien stood in the Calith dreadnought's weapon control room, surrounded by the bodies of alien defenders. His team had fought through the ship's corridors, leaving destruction in their wake. Now they were systematically destroying every weapon system they could find. Commander Vasquez, Ryan reported, the big ship is neutralized. Whatever these aliens expected, it wasn't us. Elena's voice came back over the radio, calm and professional, despite the chaos of battle. Understood, Captain. Phase 2 is now. In effect, all units pursue and destroy. The battle for Earth had become a rout. The Calith fleet, designed to fight conventional space battles against civilized opponents, was being systematically destroyed by humans who refused to follow any rules of warfare. As War Prime Corthic watched his fleet die around him, he finally understood the mistake they had made. These humans weren't a primitive species to be protected. They were something far more dangerous. Survivors who had learned to fight by fighting each other for thousands of years. And now they were bringing that experience to bear against an enemy who had never faced anything like human warfare. The awakening of human fury. Initial shock. The Calith Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. In all that time, they had never encountered a species that could adapt to their technology as quickly as the humans. Within hours of the first engagement, human engineers were reverse engineering captured Calith equipment and finding ways to turn it against its creators. Dr. Marcus Chon stood in his makeshift laboratory aboard the captured Calith destroyer Swift Retribution, surrounded by alien technology that his team had been studying. The ship's original crew had been overwhelmed by Captain Ryan O'Brien's boarding team in less than 20 minutes, something that should have been impossible according to every military manual in the Calith Empire. Elena, Dr. Chon called over. The communication system? You need to see this. Commander Elena Vasquez materialized as a hologram in the laboratory. Her image transmitted from the command ship Defiant Earth. Even in holographic form, her determination was evident. What have you found, Marcus? Their technology is incredibly advanced, Dr. Chon explained, gesturing to the alien control panels around him. But it's designed with specific assumptions about warfare. They expect their enemies to use energy, weapons, to fight at long range, to follow tactical doctrines that make sense to civilized minds. Elena nodded grimly. And we're not civilized by their standards. Exactly. Look at this. Dr. Chun activated one of the alien displays, showing a tactical analysis of the battle. Their AI systems are trying to predict our next moves based on logical military strategy. But we're not using logical strategy. We're using human strategy. The display showed Calith predictions that were consistently wrong. The alien computers expected human forces to retreat when outnumbered, to consolidate when scattered, to preserve resources when threatened. Instead, humans had done the opposite at every opportunity. Guerrilla Tactics Captain Ryan O'Brien floated in the zero gravity of the disabled Calith command ship Cosmic Harmony, his team systematically stripping the vessel of useful equipment. The ship's corridors were filled with the elegant architecture of the Calith civilization, but now they were also filled with human modifications that looked crude, but were devastatingly effective. Bravo team to command, Ryan reported, his voice carrying through the ship's communication system. We've identified a critical weakness in their life support systems. These aliens need a very specific atmospheric mixture to function properly. Elana's voice came back immediately. Explain. Their homeworld has a much thinner atmosphere than Earth. They can't handle the oxygen levels that we consider normal. More importantly, they can't handle the carbon dioxide levels that we can tolerate. We can operate in their environment, but they can't operate in ours. This information spread quickly through the human fleet. Within hours, human boarding teams were using modified atmospheric processors to flood captured Calith ships with Earth-normal air. The alien crews, unable to breathe properly, were forced to retreat to sealed sections of their own vessels. But the humans weren't finished. Engineer Sarah Kim had discovered something even more useful while studying the captured Calith technology. Their ships are powered by exotic matter reactors, she explained to the engineering teams. But the reactors are designed to be stable and safe. They have multiple redundant safety systems. That's good for them, replied Chief Engineer Tom. Rodriguez, but what does it mean for us? Sarah smiled grimly. It means that if we can override their safety systems, we can turn their own reactors into weapons. The turning point scientist Cast Vellon had been captured during the boarding of the Cosmic Harmony, and now found herself in the unusual position of being interrogated by the very species she had been studying. Dr. Chun sat across from her in the ship's conference room, his manner calm and professional. We're not going to hurt you, Dr. Chun said, his voice carrying the same measured tone he used when discussing research findings. We just want to understand your people better. Vellon's bioluminescent patterns flickered with confusion. You are asking permission to study us? Of course. Why wouldn't we? Because you are the conquered species. You should be grateful for our protection. Dr. Chun leaned back in his chair. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not the ones who've been conquered. Through the conference room's viewports, Vellon could see the aftermath of the battle. Human ships moved freely through space, while the remnants of the Calith fleet drifted helplessly or fled toward the outer system. The sight was impossible to reconcile with everything she had been taught about human primitiveness. How? Vellon asked, her voice carrying a note of genuine bewilderment. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Your weapons are crude. Your tactics are chaotic. That's exactly why we won, Dr. Chun replied. You prepared to fight advanced civilizations. You didn't prepare to fight us. Vellon's patterns shifted to what Dr. Chun had learned indicated deep thought. You use chaos as a weapon. No, Dr. Chun corrected. We use adaptability as a weapon. When you've spent your entire evolutionary history fighting each other, you learn to be flexible. You learn to find solutions that your enemies don't expect. Counterattack War Prime, Corthic had managed to escape the destruction of his fleet with less than half his ships intact. Now he floated in the command center of the Eternal Dominion, watching his tactical displays with growing horror. The humans weren't content with defending their world. They were pursuing his retreating forces with a determination that defied all logical military doctrine. War Prime, reported his tactical officer. The human fleet is maintaining pursuit. They're not attempting to consolidate their victory. Corthic's patterns flared with frustrated anger. They should be celebrating their victory, intending to. They're wounded. Why are they still attacking? The answer came from an unexpected source. Scientist Cast Vellon's voice came through the communication system from wherever the humans were holding her. Because they're not fighting a battle, War Prime. They're fighting a war. Vellon? How are you transmitting? The humans are allowing me to communicate with you. They want you to understand something important. Corthic's confusion was evident in his shifting patterns. What? When you threatened their home, you didn't just challenge their military. You challenge their entire species. Every human on that planet, every human in their fleet, every human who will ever be born. They will never stop fighting until they're certain their species is safe. Alien panic. The concept was so foreign to Calith, thinking that Corthic struggled to process it. The Empire had conquered hundreds of species, and all of them had eventually accepted their fate once the futility of resistance became apparent. But these humans seemed to become more determined as the situation became more desperate. "Sir," called out Navigator Prime Yish, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Elena Vasquez's image appeared on the main display, her expression calm and professional despite the chaos of battle surrounding her. "War Prime Corthic. I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. I'm calling to offer you terms for surrender." The audacity of the statement left Corthic speechless. A primitive species was offering him terms for surrender. "Your fleet is broken," Elena continued. "Your ships are damaged, your crew is demoralized, and you're running out of space to retreat. But we're not interested in genocide. Surrender now, and we'll guarantee the safety of your surviving personnel." Corthic found his voice. "You dare to offer terms to the Calith Empire?" "I'm offering terms to you," Elena replied. "The Calith Empire is learning about us right now through your defeat. The question is whether you want to be remembered as the commander who lost to primitives, or the commander who was smart enough to recognize when he was beaten." The pursuit continued for 3 days. Human ships, modified with captured Calith technology, hunted the retreating aliens through the outer solar system. The humans had learned to use the aliens' own faster-than-light communication systems against them, intercepting their transmissions and predicting their movements. Captain Ryan O'Brien led his boarding teams in a series of lightning strikes against the fleeing Calith vessels. Each success provided more intelligence, more technology, and more insights into alien psychology. The humans were learning faster than their enemies could adapt. "They're breaking apart," Ryan reported from the bridge of the captured destroyer. "Swift retribution. Their formation is collapsing. Some ships are trying to surrender, others are trying to run, and a few are trying to fight." Ilana's voice came back over the communication system. "Maintain pressure on all fronts. Don't let them regroup." The final battle took place near the edge of the solar system, where the last functional Calith ships made their stand. War Prime. Corthic, his dreadnought damaged but still operational, faced the approaching human fleet with grim determination. "If we must fall," he announced to his crew, "we will fall with honor." But the humans had one final surprise. Instead of engaging in a traditional space battle, they used a tactic that no civilized species had ever attempted. They rammed their ships directly into the Calith vessels, their crews evacuating at the last second in escape pods that targeted the alien ship's docking bays. The Eternal Dominion was boarded by 50 different human teams simultaneously. Corthic found himself surrounded by humans who had literally crashed their ships into his vessel just to get aboard. The audacity of the tactic was beyond his comprehension. Victory, the battle for Earth, ended not with the destruction of the Calith fleet, but with its complete capture. Every alien ship was either destroyed or under human control. Every surviving alien crew member was either captured or had surrendered. Elena stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, looking out at the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Around her, human technicians worked alongside captured Calith scientists, beginning the process of understanding and adapting alien technology. "Commander," called out Dr. Chun, "we are receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading." Elena nodded. "What kind of responses are we getting?" "Mixed. Some species are celebrating the defeat of the Empire. Others are terrified of what we might do next. A few are trying to open diplomatic channels. And the Calith Empire itself? Dr. Chun's expression was grim. They're mobilizing their full military. This was just one fleet, Elena. They have hundreds. More. Elena looked out at the stars, thinking of the billions of humans on Earth who are counting on her to protect them. Then we'll be ready for them. Aftermath. The news of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Calith Empire, which had seemed invincible for millennia, had been defeated by a species that most civilizations had never heard of. The implications were staggering. On the prison ship New Horizon, War Prime Corvick sat in his cell, reviewing the battle reports that the humans had allowed him to see. The defeat was complete and absolute. More importantly, it was impossible to cover up. Every species in the galaxy would know that the Empire could be beaten. War Prime, said the human guard, a young woman named Lieutenant Sarah Mills. You have a visitor. Elena entered the cell, her expression calm and professional. How are you being treated? Corvick's patterns flickered with confusion. You ask about my welfare? I came to destroy your species. You came to relocate us, Elena corrected. You thought you were helping us. I don't agree with your methods, but I understand your intentions. What will you do with us? Elena sat down, across from him. That depends on what your empire does next. We're not conquerors, War Prime. We're defenders. But we're also not going to let anyone threaten our home again. The Empire will send more fleets, larger ones. Then we'll defeat those too. Elena's voice carried quiet confidence. We've learned something important from this battle. We're not the primitive species you thought we were. We're survivors. And survivors don't give up. The message, as the captured Calith ships were escorted back to Earth, their faster-than-light communication systems carried a message that would change the galaxy forever. The message was simple, broadcast in every known language to every known civilization. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. Humanity extends greetings to all peaceful species in the galaxy. We seek trade, knowledge, and friendship with any who approach us honestly. But to those who would threaten our home or our people, know this: we are not the primitives you think we are. We are humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and countless other disasters. We have learned to adapt, to endure, and to overcome any challenge. Approach us in peace, and you will find us generous allies. Approach us in war, and you will find us deadly enemies. The choice is yours. The message was received by hundreds of species across the galaxy. Most were curious about these humans who had defeated the mighty Calith Empire. Some were frightened by the implications. A few were already making plans to test humanity's claims. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had announced its presence not with diplomacy or trade, but with a demonstration of what happened when someone threatened their home. The Calith Empire had learned too late that some species should not be underestimated. They had expected to find primitives armed with crude weapons and simple tactics. Instead, they had found humans, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, disguised as harmless mammals. And now the rest of the galaxy was learning the same lesson. As Elena stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dominion, watching Earth grow larger in the viewports, she thought about the future. There would be more battles, more enemies, more challenges. But humanity had proven something important. They were not victims waiting to be rescued. They were survivors, and they would defend their home against any threat. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows of their small yellow star. They had stepped onto the cosmic stage, and they intended to make their mark. War Prime Corvick had been right about one thing. The humans were indeed a species worth studying, but he had been wrong about their purpose in the galaxy. They weren't here to be protected or guided or relocated. They were here to survive, to thrive, and to show the galaxy what true determination looked like. The age of human expansion had begun. Asterisk.